Right now in South Korea, there is a hilarious, hypocritical contradiction playing out. You have thousands of middle-aged women who spent the last 15 years screaming, "I do not need a man, I do not need a family, I am a strong, independent woman." And today, they are the ones panic calling the government asking, "Hey, if I pass out on my kitchen floor, who is going to call an ambulance for me?" It is the ultimate irony of modern life. They rejected the traditional family unit because it was oppressive and demanded too much labor. But they did that while living in a society where the entire infrastructure, hospitals, emergency services, and legal systems is built on the assumption that you have a spouse or a child to act as your servant. You cannot just opt out of the system without replacing the system, and that is exactly what happened.
Wait, are you saying they did not think this through at all? That seems a bit too naive for adults.
That is precisely the point. It is a classic case of wanting to have your cake and eat it too. They bought into the dream of total autonomy, but failed to realize that autonomy has a very high cost. It is not just about having money, it is about having a social network that cares if you exist. Really, it is a blend of blunt human psychology and ruthless capitalism. The market sold them a dream where your value is measured by your career and your bank account. They were told marriage is just a bad deal, a trap where you trade your freedom for the role of a maid in your husband's household. So they bought into the idea that they could just buy their way out of everything.
But cannot they just pay for services? If they have money, should not they be fine?
That is what they thought. They believed they could commodify their own lives. They thought, "I will just pay for everything." But they forgot one thing: you can pay for a housekeeper, you can pay for a gym membership, but you cannot pay for a society to care if you live or die. A society that commodifies everything does not offer free care services for people who decided they did not want to participate in the traditional trade. The backfire is beautiful if you like dark comedy. They are realizing that the very traditional structures they spent years mocking were actually a massive decentralized free care service network that they now have no access to. Let us look at a quick scene to understand the mindset a decade ago.
But why not just get married and share the load? It makes things much easier when you have someone to help.
I am not interested in being a servant. I have my career, my money, and my freedom. I do not need someone telling me what to do or cleaning up after me.
Back then, it sounded empowering. It sounded like they were taking control of their lives. But fast forward 10 years and the story is completely different. As they reach their 40s and 50s, the motivation shifts from the pursuit of freedom to the desperate struggle for survival. They are no longer thinking about self-actualization. They are thinking about who will be there when they get sick.
Okay, I see. So it is not just about loneliness, it is about actual physical survival in an emergency.
Precisely, that is the most critical part. There is a huge difference between being lonely on a Friday night and being unable to move on your kitchen floor after a fall. And in Korea, that difference is the family unit. In Korean culture, everything revolves around the household unit. You are not a human being, you are a unit of a larger family organization. Your social standing, your medical care, your legal capacity, all of that is attached to being part of that unit. If you are not in a unit, you are socially invisible. Think of it like being in a massive, exclusive club. You can quit the club, you can say, "I am better off on my own," but once you quit, the club stops providing you with benefits. You cannot then go back to the club and demand they give you the pension and health benefits just because you are suddenly having a hard time.
So it is like they quit the game, but they still want to win the prize? That does not make any sense.
It does not make sense to us, but it is exactly what is happening. The reality is that the state is not equipped to handle this. Many legal and medical procedures in Korea require the consent or presence of immediate family members. Without an alternative legal framework, single women are functionally paralyzed when incapacitated. The state has not implemented the necessary infrastructure like widespread, accessible medical power of attorney or legal proxy systems to replace the family role. So, they are left in a blind spot.
But why not just fix the law then? If it is a problem, the government should just fix it, right?
It is not that simple. People are divided. There is a lot of resentment. Many people argue that while the individual choice for independence is valid, it was pursued with a naive assumption that the state would eventually fill the gap. There is intense debate regarding whether the state should spend taxpayer money to subsidize a lifestyle choice that inherently rejects the traditional system that everyone else is still supporting. It is a harsh reality, but it is true. Let us look at what happens when the emergency actually arrives.
I cannot come over to help you with the hospital. My wife is expecting me, and we have kids to deal with. I just do not have the time.
So, who is supposed to take me? I am completely alone here, and I cannot even stand up.
That scene is repeating itself in thousands of apartments across Seoul. The cold, hard logic of capitalism hit them, They wanted the benefits of individual freedom without the risk of individual isolation. But here is the really crazy part. This is just the beginning. The worst is yet to come. As this generation reaches elderly status, the burden on the state's healthcare and welfare system will skyrocket, as the traditional model of family-based care will no longer exist for a huge percentage of the population.
So you are saying this is going to crash the system?
We are heading toward a scenario where the state is forced to take over the care duties previously handled by the family, but without the financial capacity to do so. And this brings us back to the start. The fundamental issue is not that being unmarried is a failure, but that the market turned the family into a luxury good, and those who opted out have not successfully created a sustainable alternative. It is a massive systemic failure. These women were sold a vision of modern, individualistic freedom, but they were operating within a system designed for a bygone era of traditional support. The result is a profound care gap, an institutionalized social and economic vulnerability that is now coming due. And they are, quite literally, paying the price for it alone.
That is honestly more terrifying than I thought. I thought it was just a lifestyle preference.
It is far more than that. It is a warning to every society that thinks it can just discard its traditional support systems without building something better to take their place. You see, it is easy to mock them. It is easy to say, "I told you so." But the problem is that when you have millions of people who cannot get basic care, it becomes a problem for everyone. When a large part of your population is alone, sick, and poor, it creates a massive drain on your resources. It brings down your productivity, it taxes your public services, and it creates a sense of hopelessness that is hard to shake off. This is not just a Korean problem. This is a problem that every developed nation will face if it does not start taking care of its people. And I mean really taking care of them, not just talking about it. We talk about individualism as if it is the ultimate goal, but we forget that humans are social creatures. We need each other to survive. And yet, we have created a world where we are more connected than ever before, but also more isolated than ever before.
So what can they even do at this point? Is there any way out?
They are stuck in a cycle. They want the freedom, but they cannot afford the isolation. The only way out is for the government to create a new, modern legal framework that recognizes that the family is not the only way to live and that provides care for everyone, regardless of their family status. But that is going to be a long, painful, and very expensive road, because it means changing the way the entire society is built. And change is never easy, especially when people are so set in their ways. Fuel the truth at Dating in Korea. Support the structure. Stay safe in the lounge.